Rink Wide Vancouver, pregame, postgame, every game, presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at bodog.net. Wadden and JPat here with you with another edition of the pregame, getting you set for the Canucks and the Sabres, the red-hot Buffalo Sabres, JPat, as they flew through Alberta with 2 W's, including a big 6-3 win over the Calgary Flames that saw Alex Tuch get his first career hat trick.
Yeah, and that should catch the Vancouver Canucks' attention. It's opening night at Rogers Arena. That should have the hockey club captivated as well. We've talked about the reaction that the team may get in the building. I think early on, openers are about excitement and celebration, and I know that there hasn't been a lot of that for the Vancouver Canucks with an 0-3-2 record on that 5-game road trip, but these are season ticket holders that support this team. Most of them will show up and use their seats on night number 1, so I think they'll be well received to start, but mark my words, it can turn in a hurry if this game goes sideways for the Vancouver Canucks. So the stakes continue to be high for this hockey club. And as you said, a red-hot Sabres team, that's a description that nobody has used about the Buffalo team essentially over the last decade. It's been a dark, dark decade, missing the playoffs 11 straight years, all these top 10 first-round picks, and a lot of them in the lineup tonight, including a couple of number 1 overall picks, Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power, and guys that don't come through Vancouver very often with the East-West imbalance. So a good opportunity to see the future of the National Hockey League on defense, although there is some question about Quinn Hughes and his availability for the Vancouver Canucks after an interesting morning skate at Rogers Arena this morning.
Yeah, Quinn Hughes and Tucker Pullman, game time decisions for the Canucks. Also some big news, as it looks like Nils Höglander has been assigned to Abbotsford and Noah Juulsen has been recalled.
Yeah, now Bruce Boudreau said the Höglander transaction is a paper transaction. They needed a spot on the roster to get Noah Juulsen up, and Höglander and Podkolzin are 2 guys that could be sent down without waivers. And of course, Podkolzin's not going anywhere. And if Höglander was going to be a healthy scratch again tonight, essentially a paper transaction. Now, it's interesting. Abbotsford does play in Seattle tomorrow against the Kraken's farm team. That game's at Climate Pledge Arena. So we'll see if Nils Höglander sticks around in Vancouver and it truly is a paper transaction, or if he joins the Abbotsford Canucks for even a game. And you know what? If he's going to be a healthy scratch at the NHL level, I don't have a huge issue if he went down and played a game close to home and played a lot in all situations and power play, but we'll take the coach at his word right now that this is a paper transaction to free up a roster spot for Noah Juulsen. And the fact that Juulsen was on the ice at the morning skate this morning does tell me that a guy like Quinn Hughes has to be legitimately a game-time decision. And remember, he has played a ton in these first 5 games. Yeah. Twice he's been up over 28 minutes and had that malady, whatever it was that kept him away from those first couple of those practices just ahead of the season opener. So a lot of people have wondered, is Quinn Hughes 100%? Is he quite right? I thought he was better in the Minnesota game the other night. He had that long stretch pass that Dakota Joshua turned into an assist on the Nils Aman goal. But yeah, you do wonder, I mean, no sign of Quinn Hughes. And when I said it was an interesting morning at Rogers Arena, like, you think about this, Andrew, this is an 0-3-2 hockey club that has all sorts of things to work on. No line rushes, no special teams work. It was the forwards were out in white, the defensemen were out in black. Usually with Bruce Boudreau, it's color-coded by lines. There was none of that. And so to get a sense of who's going to play, without Höglander, they're down to 12 healthy forwards. So I think the forward group from the other night in Minnesota will play. Will there be switches to some of the line combinations? Maybe. We'll find out at game time, or at least closer to game time. I don't imagine we'll see much of a switch to that 4th line, though, that was terrific at the XL Energy Center with Amon and Joshua and Curtis Lazar. And you think about a guy like Lazar, BC boy, he was excited when he signed with the Vancouver Canucks in the offseason. You have to know that he's going to be fired up to put on a Canucks home jersey. Now, yeah, he played in the preseason, but this is a little different. Lights are brighter now. They're playing for keeps, and Lazar certainly wants to, I'm sure, be a part of the Vancouver Canucks getting their first win of the season in front of the home fans tonight.
Banged up blue line for the Canucks. Looks like maybe Jack Rathbone might get in, though.
Yeah, and we have been hearing howls from the fan base on social media that it's Rathbone time. And it certainly sounds that way, and Jack confirmed it. So did Connor Garland, in fact, when Garland said, yeah, it looks like Jack and I are going to be on the second power play unit together. So if there was any intrigue, Bruce Boudreau had hinted yesterday on Friday out at 8 Rinks that he had been saving Rathbone, and he said with a bit of a smirk, for the home opener. But it looked like Connor Garland was the guy that let the cat out of the bag. And if you recall from the offseason, Garland and Rathbone, both Boston area guys. They train together, they golf together, they've become pretty good friends. And so Garland was pretty excited that his buddy was getting the opportunity. He said he feels like a big brother to Jack Rathbone. This much we know about Rathbone. He's a Harvard-educated fella. He's a smart guy with a hockey IQ, a high hockey IQ. And he's been patient, hasn't been able to play in any of the first 5 games, hasn't had his number called, but said that when the coach told him this morning, hasn't been able to get the smile off his face. So this is what the fan base wants to see. He's an active player, skates well. You hope that he can transition the puck. It's a question of, will Quinn Hughes be in the lineup, and will they have 2 transporters of the puck? Or if Hughes isn't able to go, obviously that's going to be a massive concern for the Vancouver Canucks, because if Hughes doesn't play, Tucker Pullman was out late after practice. That's usually an indication of a guy that's not going to be in the lineup. And if Quinn Hughes can't play, then it's likely that Noah Juulsen, just called up, is going to get into his 2nd game of the season. Sorry, Noah Juulsen, with all due respect, you don't fill the spot of Quinn Hughes. So all of a sudden you could have a pairing. And it looks like if Hughes plays, I think you get Hughes and Shen, you get OEL and Myers, and you get Rathbone with Kyle Burrows. But if Quinn Hughes comes out of the lineup, Juulsen will get stuff in there, but you probably get Burrows moving over to the left side as a right shot guy, and all of a sudden things get out of whack. And interesting to note, too, early last season in Buffalo, the Vancouver Canucks had to play without Quinn Hughes, who missed that game. It was only 1 game. He got back in the lineup the next time out, but boy, did they miss him and had all sorts of trouble handling the pressure of the Buffalo Sabres and the speed of the Sabres and just getting the puck out of their own zone and up to the forwards. So Canucks are hoping that history doesn't repeat itself, that Quinn Hughes is available and in the lineup for the home opener. I'm sure anybody with a ticket wants to see Quinn Hughes, because on a lot of nights he's worth the price of admission. But it's interesting to note as well, Canucks didn't fare well against this Buffalo team last year, and one of the reasons the Canucks didn't make the playoffs, they played down to the level of opponents. And we talked about the early season loss to the Sabres in Buffalo, but they also lost in overtime at home down the stretch when every point mattered. And they got 1 point, but they left 1 on the table as well. So the Sabres with 2 wins against the Canucks last season. We'll see if the Canucks can turn the tables with this one here tonight.
Canucks, of course, looking for their first win of the year. Thatcher Demko looking for his first win of the year. Going to get the starting goal in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, and he's got to be better. We've talked about that there have been moments where he made big saves, a big stop on Matthew Boldy when the Canucks had a 3-2 lead early in the 3rd period in Minnesota the other night. But ultimately, 4 goals get past Thatcher Demko. 6 got past him in Washington the other night, 4 on opening night in Edmonton. You know, it's a 3-2 league. We hear that an awful lot, although we're seeing a lot of goals being scored right now. So maybe it's more of a 4-3 league. But the last 2 losses for the Canucks in overtime, both of them are 4-3 hockey games. So, goals are getting past the Canuck netminders. If they can just come up with a few more saves along the way, it'll go a long way to helping this team secure its first victory. So Demko's going to have to be ready. This Buffalo team, one thing we know for sure, they can score. You talk about Alex Tuch. Bruce Boudreau mentioned him. He had him as a player, a young player in Minnesota when the 2 of them were together there with the Wild. Obviously, Tuch moved on to Vegas and now to Buffalo, and he's looked at as a top-line guy, and he's come through for them. The hat trick the other night, he's got 5 goals in his last 3 games. So he knows where the net is. He's a big body with speed and not afraid to use his size to bull his way to the front of the net. And the Canucks, they're going to have to find a way to game plan him. Tage Thompson is a big man as well, 6'7". Was prolific last year as a scorer, earned that big money contract as well. And then you think about the Sabres, and I mentioned him earlier, but Rasmus Dahlin doing things that haven't ever been done in the National Hockey League, a defenseman scoring in each of his team's first 4 games of the season. 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points for the first overall draft pick back in 2018. And it just kind of feels like there's been a lot of talk around him, and maybe this is the breakout year. And if that's the case, then Rasmus Dahlin certainly looks like, he's off to the kind of start that would lead to a breakout season, and the Sabres absolutely will welcome that.
Yeah, looking for a 5th straight game with a goal to start the season. Already an NHL record for defensemen. Only Gilbert Perreault, Alex McGillney, and Thomas Vanek have started their first 5 games as a Sabre with a goal. So Rasmus Dahlin trying to put himself into some good company there. Let's get to my Bodog best bet now. And JPat, I just got a feeling about this game. I think there's going to be a power play goal scored in the first period. Doesn't matter by which team. 1 power play goal scored in the first period will net you a plus 125. So head over to Bodog and place that bet. As well as we're doing the Ice Time Challenge tonight, and we've got Elias Paterson as our focal point. The closest person to guess his time on ice will win 50 Bodog bucks. Just head over to @RinkWidePodcast on Twitter to get into the contest. All right, JPat, everybody loves this point of the pregame. Who tonight needs to do something from the Canucks?
Well, and this plays into your line of the game. I mean, the power play certainly needs to do something. There's no doubt about it. It's interesting that you go in that direction for your best bet, though, because both of these teams stuck on just 2 power play goals this season. Now, maybe they're due for a breakout. Canucks certainly feel that's the case. So, yeah, I hear you. We'll see what happens there. And my do something candidate figures into the power play. I don't know if he'll be on power play 1 or power play 2. We've seen him on both units so far. Started the season on the top unit, but has been shifted aside at times. And I'm looking at Andrei Kuzmenko. And look, he had a nice preseason. He scored 3 times in preseason action. We saw that shot that has people excited. Scores on opening night in Edmonton, but hasn't scored since. So 1 goal in his first 5 NHL games, and there have been moments. I thought he was really quiet in Columbus. I thought he was better in Minnesota. He had that chance late on the power play that could have put the Canucks back in front. Unfortunately, they weren't able to score. He didn't convert there. But home ice, home energy, this fan base wants something to get excited about. And I just think that Andrei Kuzmenko, if he he scored 3 times at Rogers Arena in the preseason. So the fans have had a glimpse at that, but they need him, and the Canucks will take contributions from anybody in the lineup. So I'm looking at Andrei Kuzmenko, 16 shots in the 5 games. That's a fair volume of shots. We haven't seen him score with the big shot, though, right? The goal he scored, stick on the ice, go to the net. JT Miller hit him with that pass, the doorstep in Edmonton in the second period that put the Canucks up 3-0 that night. So we know this guy can shoot the puck. We have seen it. We've seen it ourselves in exhibition action. I'm sure the Sabres are aware of Andrei Kuzmenko as well. But, if he's going to be a 25 or a 30-goal scorer, can't go long stretches. I'm not saying that 4 is a long stretch, but you don't want 4 to become 5 to become 8. So maybe tonight is the night that Andrei Kuzmenko does something to help the Vancouver Canucks get off the schneid, get that first win, give the home fans reason to believe, because we know that in these first 5 games, there hasn't been a whole lot to buy into when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks.
There certainly hasn't been. You can find out if Andrei Kuzmenko did something in this game by listening to our post-game podcast. We'll have that for you as quick as we can after the final horn. Going to be a good one tonight, JPat. Looking forward to this. The home opener, the Canucks and the Sabres. Seems weird to say, but this Sabres team is not to be trifled with. It seems like they got a lot of speed. Going to be a heavy forecheck tonight with those big boys coming in, and see if the Canucks can handle the mighty Sabres. And I say that kind of puzzled.
It doesn't roll off the tongue. No, but you're right. And so now there is some real intrigue until closer to game time about who's going to be in the lineup for the Vancouver Canucks on defense. They are a world better, obviously, with Quinn Hughes, but if Quinn Hughes can't go, man, that's some real pressure on Rathbone making his season debut, Juleson getting the call up and being plugged in there. So, certainly follow us on our Twitter accounts and social. When we hear the word, we'll try to get the lineup news out to you as quickly as we can, but working on going with what we had to work with from the morning skate this morning, and certainly some questions about Quinn Hughes and the Vancouver Canucks tonight.
All right, should be a good one. The home opener always is. This has been another edition of the Rink Wide Vancouver podcast. For Jeff Paterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink Wide is the show that always scores.